What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. Today, Tyler and I are taking a look at some running backs that we are actually selling ahead of the 2023 season. And Tyler, before I introduce you, I just want to tell the viewers, we struggle to find running backs that we are selling, right, for current value, because I feel like the offseason running backs have such weird value, and it does kind of climb as we get closer to the season. But I do think we have a good list of guys here for you guys today. But before we get into the video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. And to be fair, I don't want to go out and buy running backs either. So the fact that there's not very much of a market for them right now in the offseason, I think it's just kind of a common thing amongst all dynasty players. But
yeah, running backs are a weird commodity because they seem to only have real value from August until December. I would argue that running backs have some of the highest value. Once leagues have their trade deadlines, they start getting into the playoffs, running backs skyrocket in value. So in a perfect world, if I need upgrades elsewhere, probably not actually selling many running backs right now, but there are a handful of guys that I am willing to sell ahead of the 2023 season because I think there's going to be some value dips. So I'm going to jump into the video here. Start off with my first guy, J.K. Dobbins. I've never really been a huge fan of J.K. Dobbins. Maybe telling on myself there. I didn't really love him much as a prospect. He was a good prospect, but he was in the same class as JT, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers. We thought that was such a good class, but in hindsight, kind of a wash after all these years, right? But regardless, with J.K. Dobbins, we haven't seen him stay on the field over the last 3 years. And that is the big concern. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that his injuries are reoccurring, but injuries do reoccur with him. Dobbins can't stay on the field. I'm not going to put all my chips in as to say that he will do that in 2023. According to the consensus, he's the RB15. So there's only 14 running backs that are going ahead of him in a lot of drafts right now. I think that's a mistake because if he doesn't see the field as much in 2023, if he can't stay healthy, or if he doesn't even break out, there's no way he's returning top 15 value this time in a year. With Dobbins, there's no PPR upside, right? He's never been a big pass catcher, and he's not going to start magically catching passes in Baltimore, even if they do increase the rate of their passing. And then Gus Edwards also exists. And when Gus Edwards stepped in for J.K. Dobbins after he went down last year, that offense really didn't skip a beat. Right? I don't think it matters who's going to be running the ball for them. It's going to be very similar results, and I think Baltimore knows this, and they are going to have more of a split backfield than anything. Now, Dobbins is still going to, quote-unquote, dominate the touches back there, but I don't know. I don't see Gus Edwards magically disappearing, and with the competition there and the lack of, catching upside, you could almost argue that J.K. Dobbins is going to be a little touchdown dependent in 2023, right? If he gets you 85 yards and one catch but no touchdowns, it's not double-digit points, not worth RB15 overall. So I will sell J.K. Dobbins at his current price at RB15.
Yeah, so I actually I've never really been on the Dobbins train, but if he doesn't do it this year, then he's never going to do it. So it's kind of a lost cause for him. And I obviously don't like the fact that he's pretty much sharing the backfield with Lamar Jackson, and obviously, like you said, not much PPR upside. The first guy I'm going to go with is actually ranked as the RB3 right now in Dynasty, Jonathan Taylor, which I like JT, obviously. He's a great running back, but, if you can tear down and get a draft pick, if you can go from JT to CMC in a draft pick, I'll do that all day because you can't really guarantee me much more than 2 or 3 years out of either of them. So I'm going to be happy with, splitting that asset up and taking what that's worth. If I can get, the 102, 103, go get Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young, I would definitely pivot off JT right now. He's been at the top of the running back rankings for a while, but I would like to take shots elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree, and JT could have a really slow start to the 2023 season, which in terms is going to affect his overall numbers. And I think there's a very real possibility that we're discussing him outside the top 5 running backs this time next year. So I don't mind that call at all. To your point, if you can tear down at a draft pick, I'm totally on board for that. As much as I like JT, right? It's it's not a bad time to cash out. But moving into my second running back here, I'm going with Alexander Mattison. Currently the RB22 in the consensus, worth the 112, right, in super flex leagues. I know that he's a popular both buy and sell option right now. I would say, depending on who the analyst is, right, some are telling you to buy, some are telling you to sell. I'm telling you to sell. And I know Tyler's going to tell you to sell too, because we both wanted to discuss Alexander Mattison as one of our buys, but I stole it from him. Here's my thing with Mattison. There is no way that they give him the reins to this backfield, right? Like, he could be the 1A, but there's no way that one of their other running backs doesn't make some sort of impact. There's almost no way that they don't at least look into bringing in Ezekiel Elliott or Leonard Fournette or even Kareem Hunt, right? Not that those guys are a massive deal breaker for Mattison, but he's not going to return his value. Like, Mattison has been RB 40 or 50 something in dynasty like rankings until the last couple weeks. If you can cash out on him finally being ranked into the top 25 there, I 110% would. I mean, look at what Mattison has done in the past. He's filled in perfectly fine for Dalvin Cook. He's given us a handful of RB1 weeks while Dalvin Cook was injured. But Mattison has never had a relevant week with Dalvin Cook healthy on the field, and that's very telling as to, you know, the kind of skill that he has. Yeah, the scheme has worked out for him in the past, but when he becomes the focal point in that backfield, if he does, I don't think it's going to work out necessarily too well for him. And then the last point I'm going to bring up, Minnesota Vikings this year, total air raid offense. Total air raid offense. I mean, losing Dalvin Cook is a massive deal, but they go in, they have Jefferson, they have Hawkinson, they just added Jordan Addison. Even KJ Osborne had a nice little breakout at the end of the 2022 season. So I can see them not necessarily abandoning the running game in 23, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Minnesota in the bottom 5 or 6 of the league for rushing attempts. So for that reason, I'm out on Mattison at his current price.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that Alexander Mattison is going to see the 270 carries that Dalvin Cook saw last year. So I think people are expecting him to get that full workload, and it's just not going to happen. So definitely with you there. My next guy is going to be Dameon Pierce. While he had a great year last year and pretty much got a lot of people to the playoffs, it's not a long-term thing. And like, it's going to be a struggling offense this year with CJ Stroud there. Like, the same way I'm kind of nervous about Miles Sanders, I'm nervous about Dameon Pierce. Like, they're going to be playing with rookie quarterbacks and in probably not great firing offenses, and especially with just the fact that it's not going to be a long-term thing. They have no investment in him. I know they didn't draft behind him this year, but I don't think that means anything for the long term, and I just don't really want many pieces of this Houston offense. So Dameon Pierce is going to be my next guy. It says you can pretty much get a late first, or guys like Jameson Williams, George Pickens, Javonte Williams for him. So if I could pivot off to one of those assets, I would definitely like to, as far as Dameon Pierce goes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, our stat projections, which – there you go. New stat projections here on the video. Hope you guys enjoy them. Stat projections have Dameon Pierce having a pretty decent year, right? 1,200 yards. He's going to have a good 2023. But with that being said, this is still only good enough for, in the projections, the RB19. And the reason being is because there is no PPR upside. Devin Singletary is going to really play a part in this offense in 2023, I believe. And the offense as a whole is just going to be very low scoring, right? Like, I don't necessarily think we can expect Dameon Pierce to be this world-shattering running back. And then on top of all of that, like you said, he might not be the future. I mean, he was a day 3 running back, and we don't typically see day 3 running back hold a job for a significant amount of time in the NFL. And if somebody better comes along in free agency or the NFL draft in 2024, we're going to be very sad about Dameon Pierce. So I really do like the call on selling him. But moving into my final guy here, Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet in Superflex leagues, he's going maybe like 112 or 201. If I can flip that draft pick for a future random 2024 first, I'm going to do that every single time. I liked Zach Charbonnet a lot prior to the draft process, but there might not be a worse spot for him to land than in Seattle. And I'm sure you guys have heard this 1,000 times this offseason about Charbonnet's landing spot, but it's the truth, man. Like Kenneth Walker, when he was playing, like when he was starting for Seattle last year, he was top 5 like every time he went on the field. Like he is a very good running back. And as good as Zach Charbonnet is, he's not as good as Kenneth Walker. And neither one of them are particularly amazing at catching the ball, right? Like none of them is going to be a route running specialist out of the backfield. So it's not even like we can say Charbonnet is going to have a third down role. I think he's just like going to split carries with Kenneth Walker, and he's 110% going to be the 1B. His current rank is RB 19. And there is almost no way that this improves, right? Because we've seen Walker be a top 5 guy when he's on the field. If Walker plays as good as Walker can play, Charbonnet's rank is going to fall. And then if Charbonnet, if he has a good year, chances are it's a result of Kenny Walker maybe getting injured along the way. Like I can't for the life of me see a situation where Charbonnet is the 1A at any point of his tenure in Seattle. So for that reason, as a mid RB2, I will sell the hell out of him and just re-roll into a 2024 first round pick.
But yeah, I would definitely trade for a 2024 first. 100%. I think that backfield, as far as elite assets go, is pretty much a wash. So Kenny Walker definitely could have fit this video. But I think any part of that backfield I also don't want just as much as Houston's. They're loading up to throw the ball. Obviously, just got JSN and everything. Geno Smith threw the ball like 600 something times last year. So I'm gonna hop into my final guy, Travis Etienne, who is currently ranked as the RB7 on Keep Trade Cut. It says you can get up to the 104 for him, or guys like Stephon Diggs, Tagovailoa, things like that. So I would definitely re-roll for those things. He saw like a complete workload last year. Like James Robinson wasn't there. He was playing 75 to 80% of the snaps in most games last year, and he did not produce anywhere near top 5 production. It was pretty good. A guy like you would want on your roster, but not a guy ranked as the RB, or did I say RB3 before? I meant RB7. Definitely not a guy who I would take him at RB7. Granted, he's young. They did just draft behind him as well, and like he's going to see even like a reduced workload this year. Like he's going to have that it's going to be a 1-2 punch, and he didn't even have like really a great receiving workload either. Calvin Ridley is going to cut into that. He was only getting 3 or 4 targets a game. That we talked about before. Dameon Pierce was getting more than that. So as far as like receiving upside goes, I don't even really want to like hear that argument, because it's like there. He's getting a decent amount. It's not like non-existent, but it's definitely not like going to win you many weeks. It's going to add 2, 3, 4 points maybe at max to your weekly upside. It's not what guys like CMC really bring you to the table. So Travis Etienne is going to be my final guy.
Yeah, I like that call. To your point, the PPR upside really only comes into play when you're dealing with 80-plus targets. And you need a guy like CMC, Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson last year, what we project Jahmyr Gibbs to do in Detroit this year. That level is not going to come for Etienne. And I like the call of selling him at RB7. I still do like Etienne, and he still is, an RB1 for me. But our 2023 projections has him as RB14. And I do think that's kind of close to his ceiling, right? Because to your point, they brought in another running back. And while Etienne is definitely better than Tank Bigsby, Tank is going to be there, right? So I do agree with all of the calls you said today. And Tyler, I got to say, I feel like it's rare where we have a video where I agree with all of your takes and you agree with all of my takes. So this is definitely one for the record books, the fact that we could actually be on the same page for 6 different guys here.
Yeah, I know. It was funny when we went through the video before. It was like we almost took 2 of each other's guys. We were going to share players, but we figured it out and got 3 for each of us. But I definitely tear off these guys for other things into like in their tiers, different assets.
100%. Yeah, if I can flip any of these guys for a future first, or obviously JT, for example, we want more than just a future first. But if you can tier over to a wide receiver equivalent, or a wide receiver plus a draft pick, or a slightly lesser running back plus a draft pick, never a bad idea. And then to your point, like with Etienne, I just got to revisit that. You said you could potentially get Tua for Etienne. You know how I feel about Tua. I'm scared as hell to draft him. I will take Tua over Etienne in almost any scenario in a Superflex league. So that's a really good call right there. But that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what running backs you're looking to sell high on ahead of the 23 season. And let us know why. Because we always love hearing from you guys. And hey, you hopefully learn a thing or two from us, but we like learning a thing or two from you as well. And of course, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon to stay up to date whenever we post these videos. So for myself, for Tyler, for Goal Line Dynasty, we will see you next time.